Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. You know, I really love the themes explored in this next book we're going to be talking about. It's written by Vicki Gardiner, LPC, and it's titled Sam's Invisible Shield. The book explores kindness, self-esteem, and the power of emotional resilience. And I'm going to learn more about it. I have the author, Vicki, right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Vicki, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm curious about Sam's Invisible Shield. Can you tell me what readers are going to find here?
Well, readers are going to find a story about a boy named Sam that helps himself and his friends kind of help protect himself from unkind words.
And what sorts of readers were you writing for here?
Well, I was writing for more elementary age students or kiddos and for teachers and school counselors and parents.
So how did this come about, Vicki? What sparked this idea?
Well, I used to be a first grade teacher and then was a school counselor for many years. And now that I'm in private practice, I like to write stories about what types of topics that I help kids work through and their families. And so this was just an activity actually that I would do with children and adults that were experiencing unkindness.
Once you got started on this book, was this a long journey for you, the writing, publishing, and everything?
Well, since the activity came first, it made the story go a little bit easier. The writing of the story didn't take very long just because I had done the activity so much and had worked with so many different children and the issues that they were facing. The publishing part took a little bit longer, but it's been a really fun journey.
So is this your first time embarking on this journey of writing and publishing, or do you have a bit of a history with it?
No, this was the first time.
Congratulations. I could only imagine then what you were thinking and feeling and everything whenever you got to hold this for the first time. What was that like for you?
It was very exciting. I couldn't believe that it was real because I'd always dreamt of doing something like this, but didn't know how to put it together, if I had what it took to put it together, and so many moving parts. And so when I opened it and saw the book for the first time in my actual hands, it was a really, really celebratory day.
And now it's official. You're a published author, Vicki. What's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
Well, I've done a few story times here in my community and just engaging with the children and their families and just seeing their reactions has been the most rewarding.
So looking down the road, Vicki, do you think you'd do it again? Do you think you got more books that you'd like to publish?
Well, I just signed another contract for my second book.
Great.
So yes, we're doing it again.
Fantastic. Is it along this vein or are you exploring other things?
Well, it's always going to be about things that I see, helping kids sort out, issues. And so this next one is about a little girl that has anxiety. And it's going to talk about ways that she discovers that she can help control those worries, that she has the power within her.
Well, I'm sure you've learned an awful lot along the way of doing this, Vicki. Can you throw out any advice now for the first-time authors who are listening?
Yeah, just jump into it. As silly as that sounds, the just kind of putting it into motion is the most difficult part, but it really came together. You really have to be flexible in your thinking because the original manuscript will never be printed the way the original manuscript was.
Right.
The illustration, all of these pieces, if you go in with a fixed mindset, it's going to be really difficult and even more challenging. But if you accept the help and advice of the people that do this all the time, you will really create something special between your words and your vision and with the publisher.
Great advice. Well, what an important book this is. I love the message in it, so I encourage everybody to definitely go seek this out. The title again is Sam's Invisible Shield. It's written by Vicki Gardiner, LPC, and published by Newman Springs Publishing, so go get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Vicki, thank you so much for joining me and telling me about this really great book. I had a great time talking tonight.
Thank you. I did too. I appreciate it.
There's an exploration of personal experiences with the Word of God in the new book written by Conie Taylor. The book's titled End, the Last Judgment. We're going to be talking all about this book. Conie is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Conie, welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
The pleasure's all mine, Conie. Can you tell me all about what readers are going to find when they open up End, the Last Judgment?
Well, the book is designed to set salvation and survival. It's designed to prepare people for harder times, as God spoke to me, and it's designed to prepare people for Christ's second coming also. And so as you begin the first part of the book, it's a survival kit entitled Survivor Kit, and they give people's pointers on how to make better decisions during these times.
Conie, what sorts of readers were you speaking to here? Did you have an audience in mind?
Well, to the human race, actually. I mean, the book is written to everybody. I mean, we all live in this world, and we all see this world coming down. Now, everybody don't believe that it's going to end soon or whatever, but that's what my message is about, is to get prepared for harder times and to meet Christ. So this book is to the human race, wherever they are. This book should be read throughout the whole world, to all humans.
Now, Conie, how did this book come about? What sparked you to start writing it?
Well, I was serving a prison sentence in Sandstone, Minnesota, the spring of 1985. I started having these dreams after I was converted into Christianity. And before that, I was getting in trouble and stuff, and I wasn't thinking about God and his work at the time. And I had this dream, and I looked toward the clouds, and the clouds was white than any white that I've seen on this earth. And written other clouds with King of Kings and Lord of Lords. In the tip of my tongue, I was speaking to God. I said, Lord, you came sooner than I thought. Now, nobody knows what I was thinking except me and God. But I wasn't looking for him to come that soon. But you know our time is not God's time. But it's about preparation. Get your life together, get with Jesus, get your salvation together, and prepare for worse times. Even that's what inspired me to start writing. But at that time, I didn't ever think I was going to write a book. I just started jotting my dreams down on a piece of paper. Writing the book came, he spoke to me again, inspired me to start writing a book after I had gathered so many notes. And the Lord actually spoke to me, like, I'll show you all things. He spoke to me, and I know it was God because it was so powerful, like thunder, like speaking through all the oceans, the muffle his voice to my comprehension where I could understand it with my little ears. That's what inspired me. God gave me this book, and it's been 39 years.
So once you handed your manuscript off to the publisher and started that publishing process, Conie, what was the most challenging part for you of that publishing process?
To raise the money to get it started and stuff, and that was challenging because I was on a low budget. It's been challenging because, remember, this was 39 years ago. I mean, the grass was a lot greener then than they are now. I mean, people could see clearly. And that's the reason God has picked this time to push this book. It's not me. It's God's moving to push this book.
Well, there's definitely a powerful message in this book. I think a lot of readers are going to be into it. Again, it's titled End, the Last Judgment. This is written by Conie Taylor. published by Christian Faith Publishing. It's available anywhere, so head over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes. Also down the street, your local bookshop, you'll be able to find this. Well, Conie, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks again for joining me and telling me all about this.
Thank you. I've been waiting 39 years to meet you. Had to be God. Thank you.
Maretha Johnican has written a powerful and inspiring memoir, and it's out now. It's titled The Last Shall Be First, and the First Shall Be Last, The Diary of a First Lady. And that's what we're going to be talking all about right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm really happy that the author, Maretha, is here with me. Maretha, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here myself. I'm honored. Yes.
I'm honored to have you, and I'm excited to learn about The Last Shall Be First and The First Shall Be Last. So, Maretha, can you tell me about this?
Well, as I reflected back over my life, I just thought about the ups and downs and the different things you go through and experience in life and, being born into poverty and other things happening, dysfunctional family and all. It seems like it was going to be last, last at things, And so, just things didn't seem to go very well with our parents and all of those things. Fast forward a few decades later, I did become a first lady of the church, and my husband, a pastor, of course. And then it seemed, like what would have been a great relationship. It seemed logical anyway. But, as things began to happen, it seems like being the first lady, I became last again. So it's, I think, just riveting story about, how, we go through ups and downs in life, how we seem to be maybe first, for a while, and then we're last, and vice versa, the different cycles of life.
So what sparked you to write this and say, hey, I got to write my story for the world. People need to hear this.
Well, I really felt like it was a God-given calling. I had it in my heart to do, at some point it sparked, and then it just seemed like the spark just never went away. And I just felt compelled to write a story about my life, hoping that it would inspire, young women who may have made mistakes, and let them know that they can overcome, even to reach out to other first ladies that may feel alone, isolated, feel like there's no one to talk to with the different things that you go through in that position. So I wanted to also inspire them and anyone else that may pick up the book and decide to read it. I think they could glean something from it, like we're saying, it goes from my childhood through my adult years as well.
Maretha, are you new to writing and publishing and everything, or do you have a history with it?
Yes, brand new to it. I've written different things. I put in the book, I'm also a registered nurse. So we oftentimes have to write and, we document on our patients and things. And we have to write a little mini story about them to paint a picture to whoever may read the documentation. So I've written, a lot during life, but this is the first time I've ever, had a book published or anything. But I do hope to have more published in the future.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on getting that first one out there. How long of a journey was this for you? Once you got started on it, clear up until it was published and out there?
It took quite a few years because I had a lot of turns and detours and delays along the way. I started it in 2016, I think. I wrote the first paragraph, and I said, I at least have to get something on paper. But I wanted to at least get it started, and I felt like that would, urge me to go ahead and get finished. But, with starting a new job and transitioning life, relocating, and so many different things that happen, pressure on the jobs and all of that, a little bit here and there from 2016 to 2023. So, about 7 years from start to finish. But, if I had more time, I could have gotten it done a lot quicker, though.
Yeah, and after all that time, after all that hard work that you put into it, that day finally came for you. You open up the mailbox. There it is.
Yeah.
You finally get to pick it up and hold it in your hands. What was that like, Maretha?
It was just surreal. It's just a really surreal moment. Like I just, I envisioned it. But to see it and be able to hold the book in my hand was a totally new experience and a different experience. Very exciting. And like I said, I think it will compel me, to go ahead and write more books and, to try to get them out there.
Fantastic. What a wonderful book. I think this is going to bless a lot of people. Again, the title is The Last Shall Be First and the First Shall Be Last. The Diary of a First Lady. It's written by Maretha Johnican, and it's published by Christian Faith Publishing. So head over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, traditional brick-and-mortar stores, and you'll be able to find this. Maretha, it's been very wonderful talking with you tonight, learning about this book. Thanks so much for being here.
And thank you for having me here. And I do hope that many will be motivated and inspired by the book.
There's a story of spiritual awakening in the new book written by Steve Foppiano. It's titled Time Tells. And I get to learn more about this book. The author, Steve, is sitting here with me now. Steve, welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm so glad for the invitation. I'm excited. I love to talk about my book, and I love to talk about me. Heck, who doesn't, right?
Exactly. I'm so excited to be talking with you and to be learning about Time Tells. So, Steve, can you tell me what readers are in store for?
Okay, Time Tells is about a clock that comes to life in an older man who kind of just is retired but is all alone. And the hands of the clock, and tick and talk, of course, take him on a spiritual journey through days in the Bible. I don't want to reveal any more than that. I don't want to give up everything, but that's pretty much the gist of it.
I love it. What sorts of readers do you think would be really into this?
My kids, when they were like 9 and 10, they read it, understood it, and enjoyed it. My parents and my wife's parents in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they read it and enjoyed it too. So, I mean, I'm thinking it could attract all types of, cross lines there. I want everybody to read it, put it that way.
And I love this premise. It's really creative, Steve. You got to tell me, where did the idea for this come from?
Okay, there's a story right there. Okay, back when my kids were like 7, 8, 9, 6, they would, Daddy, tell us a story before we go to bed. And this happened like 5 nights a week, and I do that. Well, I was working graveyard at a teenage group home with pretty much nothing to do. And I thought, let me just put one of these stories to pencil and paper. And that's where Tick and Talk were born.
So is this your first time publishing, Steve, or have you done this before?
I published the same book about 10 or 12 years ago, and the company went up, so it was not available anymore. So I republished it with an extra story added to it. And the beauty of this story is there can be so many sequels.
I love it. Do you have any planned right now? Are you working on anything?
Oh, yeah. I've had 1 or 2 already done stories, and I'm in the middle of another one. So I'm continuing to write, put it that way.
Yeah, there's the writing of the book, and then there's the publishing of the book. That's a whole different ballgame. Steve, what did you find the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
Oh, my goodness. How to promote it, I guess. They did a really good job editing. It really didn't need that much editing. Just what do I do to promote it? Yeah, that's probably the most challenging. And you guys are helping really good because it is a good book. I've never heard anything negative about it so far anyway.
That's wonderful. And after all that hard work that you put into it, you finally get that finished product. You get to hold your book for that first time, Steve. Tell me what you're feeling. What's going through your head at that moment?
Oh, God, it was surreal. It was like, God, did this really happen? Almost like the birth of a child. And that's probably wrong comparison because that's something totally different. The book is kind of like my child. And to see it come forth and to see people enjoy it and to see numbers go up when people buy it, it was the out-of-this-world experience.
And when you think to yourself, man, I'm a published author, what's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
Yeah, I really don't let it go to my head. I try not to. My wife keeps me grounded, put it that way. She inspires me to write, and she inspires me to stay humble.
So when you do sit down to write, Steve, do you find you have maybe a structure to it? Like you like to sit down early in the morning or maybe late at night, or do you just find yourself writing whenever you feel that inspiration, or you just find that time to sit and write?
Well, sometimes I just have to push myself to sit down, and it could be any time, and I don't know what's coming, but something always comes. Here's one of the things that I found to be at least true with me. I am a Christian author, and I'm also a Christian. And the Bible says that we were made in God's image, right? That's what the Bible says. And He's creator. I find when I'm creating, I'm most like Him. I feel a closeness to Him that I don't feel any other way, if I can put it that way. But even in that, sometimes it's such a battle just to get down and start writing.
I think a lot of readers are going to be into this book. Again, the title is Time Tells. It's written by Steve Foppiano, and it's published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can find it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes and also at traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Steve, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you so much.
The title of the book we're talking about right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable is something I think a lot of us say from time to time. The title is God, What's Up With This? And I'm sitting here right now with the author, Donna Higgins-Gardner, and we're going to talk all about this. Donna, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm curious about God, What's Up With This? Can you tell me all about it?
Well, it was a long time coming. You know, people have things that go on in their lives, always. There's always something, and you're always asking, I thought I'd done everything. I've done everything I know to do. Why in the world is this happening to me? Why? Why, God? Why? What's up with this? And so it's really a story. It's my story, and it's a true story. And it's basically me questioning that pretty much through the book, but it came with a lot of traumatic incidents and things that happened. But you know what? Through it all, God gets us through. He absolutely is there. And it just talks about a lot of things that people think a lot of times that they don't necessarily say. It's like I don't base Christianity or people's walk with the Lord based on how many times they go to church in a month. It's more about a deeper relationship with Him. And through that, you can walk through just about anything. And I lost my dad, my husband, and then I was told that I should have died before my husband did.
Wow.
And so, that's just a little bit of it, but it's a lot of stuff. But I came through on the other end, and you know what? It's amazing. And I wrote this book because so many people I would run into, oh, you poor thing, I can't believe. And it was like, no. It's not for me. I'm okay. God's got me. And I think we've got to get to that place where we know that we don't have the control. He's got the control. And we've got to trust Him in all His ways, and things will turn out. It was a real hard thing for me.
Donna, what kinds of readers were you writing for? Who do you think would get the most out of this?
I think anybody who is going through tough times in their life and is questioning why. What's up with this? I don't even understand why this is happening, I think it gives you some real strong answers to some of those questions that you can actually look at and read and see how God worked in my life and how He can work in yours as well.
Well, this is really personal to you, Donna. What made you decide to write this and publish it?
That's a very good question, because I actually wrote this book a long time ago. I wasn't even sure I still had it. My daughter called me and said, Mom, did you ever finish that book? You really need to really look at getting something done with it. And I said, no, I don't even know. We've moved 4 times. I'm not even sure I know where it is. And I didn't know where it was. And I knew I didn't have the computer that it was written on. It had been too long. And then my husband, because I had gotten remarried, he's a wonderful man. I came home one day from work, and there was my original manuscript sitting on my desk.
Oh, wow.
And I was floored. I go, where did you find this? Oh, well, I just found it out in the garage. I thought you might be interested in it. And it was like, well, yeah. And it was kind of like that was that aha moment where it was like, okay, I get it. I'm going to get it done. I'll get it done. And then I pursued about 5 different publishers, all of which were interested in doing it. So it was exciting. I'm learning something new every day because it's not anything that I was familiar with. We had a ministry and had done some different things, had a newspaper and different things that we worked at with my husband who had passed away. And so this has just been something completely new.
What are the chances that you might do it again, that we might see another book from you here down the road?
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me that have read it, and they're looking forward to the next one. And I've got another one. I know I do. And it's going to be Pray Hard and Go Forward, I think.
I think so many readers are going to find this book a blessing. Again, it's titled, God, What's Up With This? The author is Donna Higgins-Gardner, and the publisher is Covenant Books. so you can find it wherever. Go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, traditional brick-and-mortar stores, really wherever you normally get your books, and you'll be able to find this one. Donna, it's been wonderful talking today. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an exploration of the complexities of relationships and the enduring power of the human spirit. It's the new book by Juanavoni Gomeico titled Fading, My Daughter I Have But Never Had. And we're going to be talking all about this. The author, Juanavoni, is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Welcome, Juanavoni. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate being here too.
Can you tell me all about Fading, My Daughter I Have But Never Had? What are readers going to find here?
Well, it's a very interesting story of two young people who started their lives in school, in the middle grade school, but it develops, and I think they both fell in love. But Juanavoni, he was more in love than she was. But then again, circumstances had her going over the whole place and doing other things based on the fact that she couldn't have provided for herself at an early age. So she got pregnant first with her first child, and then she came back into the area, and both of them fooled around, and another child came into play. And this one, Juanavoni welcomed with a lot of surprise and sacrifice. He worked to maintain and keep that child. But then the mother kept running from place to place with other men, going and coming. But each time she came back, then he fell for it, and he's with her again. And it goes on and on until he questioned the child, because rumors went around that she was along with other persons. Therefore, it was not very easy for him to accept the child as his blood child. So he had that little fear within him, but he wasn't sure. But he took the child in as his. He cared for it, even though sometimes she didn't give him much of a chance to do so, because she kept running, going and coming. That was basically her life, running, going and coming. So the child came of age, and she accepted him after he searched for them. Well, this is the main core of the story, that he searched and searched. Each time she ran away, he went in search, because he loved that child so much. So he found her. They started a relationship. Then the mother broke it up again by running again. And this continues for a long period of time. He lost them, and he, as I said, he kept searching. But this time, when he found them, he found her with a child. She was well grown now. The baby was well grown. He found her with a child. And the mother kept pushing it in that the child is his. But then she's not giving him enough chance to be the father, because he was in a better position now, and she wouldn't want him to keep the child for too long. But then he found her, brought her home with him, his family, because he had a family. His family accepted the child, and the child stayed with him for a while. She got her education. She started working and, starting to be somebody, find herself and starting to be somebody. Then the mother came back for her again, and all hell break loose. So the fact is that he had this child that he owned, but in the end, it came forth forcefully that the child wasn't really his child.
Juanavoni, what sorts of readers were you writing this for?
Well, as a budding writer, I'm not sure myself. I just write a book and expecting people to just take this book and feast on it, because there are inspirational thoughts and there are things there for everybody. Of course, it's not a children's book. It's an adult book. So there are things there for both males and females, for every age group. I hope that I was covering, that spectrum of life.
So is this the first time you've ever written a book, been published, Juanavoni, or have you done this kind of thing before?
It's the first book. I've written several books after that one, but this book was the first book.
Juanavoni, how did you get the idea to write this? What sparked this?
This is interesting now. Inspiration came from teachers and books and from excellent authors. An intriguing spiritual line came when he looked back on his life and the life of his daughter, the situation surrounding them both. It popped in his mind that this is interesting. But then the greatest part of it is that he had an inspiration from older books that he used to read in the Bible. And he thought that these guys were interesting and he would love to be like them at some point in time. So, he thought about writing, but then he had challenges because he never liked writing when he was in school. He never loved writing, none at all. He hated it. He would love to write, but he tells himself that he cannot write, and therefore he wouldn't get into writing. And one little book caught his attention, and that was this small book by the name of Johnny Appleseed, because they called him Johnny sometimes, and he said, oh, but I could do this. After starting writing a little bit every day, not sure of where he's going or what he's doing, he discovered that something could happen. What came out of it is this book and many other books after.
Again, the book is titled Fading, My Daughter I Have But Never Had. It's written by Juanavoni Gomeico and published by Haas & Jenkins Publishing. So you can find it at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Juanavoni, thank you again for coming on the show and telling me all about this. I had a really nice time talking.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
Karen McKenzie Brown's new book for young readers is all about imagination, friendship, and the joy of discovery. The book's titled Matt Lachey Meets Wally the Worm, and I get to find out more about this book. The author, Karen, is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Karen, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Karen, can you tell me all about Matt Lachey Meets Wally the Worm? What are readers in store for here?
Well, Matt Lachey is actually named out of the town off of Pine Island, Florida, that I lived in, and that's where I originally created him. And he's just a young boy, loves to read. He has his favorite spot in the park to go to, and that's where he happens to meet his best friend, Wally. And they go on some little adventures.
This is a book for young readers, like I said. How young are we talking about?
Well, as soon as they get started, this is an easy reader. It doesn't have big, complicated words. The only big, complicated word, Matt and Wally actually help you sound it out. But I don't believe that there's a limit because you can always read to a child from birth. So, anywhere from birth on up to 10, even 12 years old.
So this is a creative concept here, Karen. Can you tell me where the idea come from? What sparked you to write this?
Well, that's kind of like a trick question. I had doodled with Matt Lachey. I came up with him, like I said, when I lived on Matt Lachey, Florida, on the island. And I made him into comic strips and greeting cards and airbrushed him on T-shirts. And my kids and grandkids grew up with him. And I decided I wanted to, actually, my granddaughter and I were sitting around doodling together. And I said, this would be cool to be in a book. I said, but I think it's too late for that. And she said, well, why is that? Well, no, it's not. And it made me think. I'm like, all right, I can do this.
So once you got started on this, Karen, how long of a process are we talking about? Was this a really long journey for you, clear up through the publishing and everything?
Not really, but that's kind of a trick question. Because it was going to be a 12-part story. I wanted to do a series on it because of all the different comic strips and things that I did for my kids over the years. But my granddaughter, actually the same one, kind of encouraged me. She's like, when are you going to get it done? I thought you was going to do this when I was little. And now she's graduated. So she kind of pushed me to really set a goal and do it, sit down and concentrate and get it done. And actually, it did not really take long. Once I sat down and done it, it only took me 3 weeks to actually write the book and about a year to get to where I'm at right now with you.
Have you ever published before this?
No.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah, once you hand your manuscript off to the publisher, you start that whole publishing process, and it's pretty involved. Karen, what did you find the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
Well, I had heard horror stories about people getting ripped off with different publishing companies. I absolutely was blessed with one of the best, obviously, because they stayed with me every step of the way. But this was just an adventure I can't really put into words.
Then after all that time and hard work that you put into it, finally, it comes in the mail. You get to hold that finished product. What was that moment like for you, Karen?
Okay, my husband and I were pulling in, and I seen the box on the front porch. Now, he said I didn't wait for the car to stop, but I'm pretty sure I did when I went out and ran for the box. But I did get out safely, and I got inside, opened the box, and just the brilliant bright colors popped out at me. This was one of my pictures that I drew, and they went with it and redone it. And this is the first time I ever got to see one of my artwork in full color and without eraser marks. That was just so wonderful.
Wow.
And they did such a brilliant job on it and asked me every step of the way, is this okay? Is this okay? And it was just marvelous. I just felt accomplished.
Well, what a wonderful book this sounds like. I think people are really going to love it. Again, it's titled Matt Lachey Meets Wally the Worm. This is written by Karen McKenzie Brown, published by Christian Faith Publishing, so you can pick it up everywhere. Go on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes, also down the street at your local bookshop. You can pick this up. Karen, it has been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Fool's Hill, The Meaning Why. It's the name of the new book by Dr. Ron Cubit, and the audiobook edition just came out. We're going to be talking all about this right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Ron, the author, is joining me. Ron, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Ron, can you tell me all about Fool's Hill, The Meaning Why, and what readers and audiobook listeners are in for here?
Okay, basically the book is about the challenges I face as an individual transitioning from one stage of life to the next. And if you look at the cover of the book, you'll see that it pictures a young man that's about to traverse a hill, and there's really no path for that young man. And if you read the book, the young man is faced with many challenges traversing Fool's Hill. And Fool's Hill is a name that I got from my grandmother, and she would always say that, that boy will be all right once he gets over Fool's Hill. So that's why I named the book Fool's Hill, The Meaning Why.
I love that. Ron, what made you decide to write this and then publish it for everybody?
Well, I decided to write it, and it's part of divine intervention. I decided to write it because God has blessed me with many serendipities in life. And therefore, I wanted to do something to give back. I've been involved with disadvantaged youth and young adults for most of my life, working in different programs. So this book sort of sets the framework for others to help them know that they can achieve anything that they want to in life.
Would you say then that this is for the younger adult audience?
It could be for the younger adult audience or for any person that wants to read it. So it could be for the younger adult audiences, yes. And I have worked with programs for the young adult and youth.
Now, when it comes to writing and publishing and everything, Ron, have you done this kind of thing before, or is this your first time?
This is my first time for a book, but I have published my dissertation for my doctorate, which was as demanding as writing the book. The book took me 3 years, and my dissertation to publish that took 3 years, and both are sitting in the Library of Congress.
Yeah, there's the manuscript, you hand that off to the publisher, and you start that whole publishing process. When you got started with that, Ron, what was the most challenging part of the publishing process for you?
The most challenging was editing. I hired 3 editors. Well, the publishing company had 1 editor, and I hired 2 editors. And that was the most challenging part of constantly editing and making the book readable for my audience.
And now we have the audiobook edition out. Ron, you were used to reading your words off the page that whole time, and now you're hearing somebody read your book back to you. What's that like?
It's exciting to know that, someone is reading what I've written. And for me, it's divine intervention, because if you read the book, I was not destined to be an author. But there I am, an author and a published book. And I'm hoping that individuals who read the book, it will help them in their life.
Was it difficult finding just the right voice that you wanted for this?
Yes, it was different finding the right voice. I interviewed 3 individuals, and I sent out surveys for transcripts from different readers. And actually, my children was the one who picked the readers for the book.
And now that you're officially a published author, Ron, when you think about that, what's the most rewarding thing about that for you?
The most rewarding thing is, again, a divine intervention. I was able to write the book. And the other rewarding part of it is, I accomplished something that I never thought I would ever do in life. And to be able to say that I've done that along with my doctorate degree, it's a rewarding experience.
I think this book is really going to touch a lot of lives. Again, it's titled Fool's Hill, The Meaning Why. It's written by Dr. Ron Cubit and published by the Audiobook Network. So go over to places like Audible, iTunes, Amazon, really anywhere you usually pick up your audiobooks, you'll be able to find this. Ron, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
And thanks for having me.
Sitting here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to be talking with author Valerie Klimaszewski. Valerie, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to say congratulations because the audiobook edition of your book, Rainbows, From Brokenness to Blessings, just came out. So, Valerie, can you tell me all about the book and what readers and audiobook listeners are going to get into here?
So I thought, well, why would anyone want to read my book? What's the point, So I wanted to it's for all of us. It's for young, old, weak, old, little baby, older people, weeks. It's for all of us. What is my message? How can I get this out? Through grieving and through the death of my daughter, who I lost through preventable death of sepsis, I want the message to get out that we're so worried about COVID over here, this little tiny thing over here. Sepsis far over COVID. So I want people to be aware the symptoms and the signs way before it gets to that point, because sepsis is very cunning and very silently, quickly. You can die within 12 hours. I mean, there's a golden rule that within the first hour of detection, if you're not getting help, within the first hour, there's 7.6% of preventable tragedies. And so that my daughter was one of those. And I want to help get the message out. This is Sepsis Awareness Month. Chuck Schumer put it out there. He wants to introduce a bill to help people have awareness of the flags, the symptoms to look out for. It's not just the flu. It's not, you just got a little cold. Just go. This is a preventable thing. It can happen from fungus, bacteria, virus, a mosquito bite, whatever. But anyway, it is an infection that gets into the bloodstream, and it's deadly. And it's quiet sometimes, and people don't even know what happened. So I want to have them know the stages of that and the grieving process that I went through to be healed from that and to be able to pay it forward.
Once you got started on this, Valerie, how long of a journey was this for you, up through the publishing and all of that?
I was a young woman. I was 33, I think, when my 9-year-old daughter died. So it's been about 38 years.
And when it comes to publishing, writing, and all of that, do you have a background in this, or are you new?
No. My husband just hit me on the head. Like, don't even try this, I just had your old piece of paper and a pen, and I only had my phone. I didn't have a computer. He goes, are you kidding me? I go, no. We're sitting around here 2 years ago, sitting around doing nothing during COVID. And I thought, well, I can just sit here. I might as well do something, right? I can do something. What? So all I had was my phone and my pinky. And I started working with found an publisher and portal. I worked through the author's portal, and I just used my pinky all the time and did the editing through the whole thing was transcribed through my pinky finger on my phone. And my husband just thought, you're crazy. It's too hard. Stop. But I said, no, where there's a will, there's a way. Don't ever give up. So that's how I did. I started around 3 years. Within COVID time, I started writing it down, and it got out there and got copyrighted and published and stuff like that within 2 years.
And a lot of people listening to us right now, Valerie, are authors who are just starting out and things. And I'm sure you've learned a lot along the way of doing this. So do you have any advice that you'd be able to throw out there for them?
Never give up. Even with all the naysayers and everyone said, who cares? Or don't ever give up. You got to tell your story. There's a purpose and a meaning for our life. And for me, I think it's to give back, because I think we're all interchangeable and holding hands, really. And why can't we wrap our hands around each other and help each other, through this life? I kind of look at myself. Well, let's just pretend we're walking on the beach. I live at the beach, and there's a lighthouse over there on the hill. Well, hopefully I can be a light to the mariners out there in the water to warn them of danger of the rocks nearby or the squalls coming up, and then hopefully my light can help them find a safe harbor home. And I know this sounds kind of funny, but I'm an artist too. And in my mind, I pick a watercolor brush to paint pictures with my words. And so everything I say, they might be few, but I want them to be forceful. I want them to give you a word picture. I want you to see it, So I'm just trying to get the message out in whatever way I can.
I think a lot of lives are going to be touched by this. It's a really important message. Again, the book's called Rainbows, From Brokenness to Blessings, written by Valerie Klimaszewski and published by the Audiobook Network. So pick it up at places like Audible or iTunes and Amazon. Valerie, thank you again for coming on the show. It was nice chatting.
Thank you for having me, okay? I really appreciate it very much.
My Theory of Evolution, Life with Meaning, Part 2. It's the new book written by William Coakley, and it's a variety of the author's ideas about life. We're going to find out all about this book. The author, William, is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. William, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you for welcoming me to the show.
Absolutely. Just wanted to say congratulations for getting this book out there. William, could you catch us up a little bit on part 1, what you wrote about there, and then how that plays into part 2?
Yeah, in part 1, I talked about my life and my theories, my own personal theories about life. I talked about my experiences with life. I talked about my views on certain things relating to movies or shows or songs. I talked about my past and my experiences, and it feeds in the book too, with the first half, again, being about my life and my theories, and maybe my own sciences, how I view sports. In my second half of my second book, I talked about the news a lot.
So what gave you the idea to write this, William? What sparked the idea to write your ideas and publish them for the world?
I thought that my life was interesting, and people would find it very interesting to read about my life and my theories. I thought that I'd put my life out there and see how many viewers I can get.
And when it comes to the kinds of readers that you were thinking about when you wrote this, who do you think would be into it the most?
I'm trying to reach all different ages and genders and everything, different people. I think diversity is great. I think my book can reach the masses and different audiences in a great way.
So how long were you working on part 2 once you got started on it?
I was working on it for about a year, I guess. Thanks to my publishers, I was able to fully release the book.
Yeah, there's the writing of the book, and then you hand your manuscript off to the publisher, and you start that publishing process. William, what's the most challenging part of the publishing process for you?
I think getting sales and getting people to buy your book. I know there's a lot of books out there, so just getting the right audience to buy your book is the hardest part.
And when that day finally came, after all the work that you put into your book, and you open up the mailbox, and there it finally is, your first copy, you get to hold it in your hands, a real thing for the first time. William, what's that moment like for you?
It was great. I got my own author copies of all my books, and it was really refreshing. I showed it to my friends and family. Yeah, it was a great feeling. And to be a published author was really exciting to me.
Now, before you wrote the first one, part 1, what does your writing background look like, William? Have you ever published before this?
No, it was just an idea brought to me by a friend, one of my best friend as well. And I just started writing back in 2017. And, it took a while, but I got my first book released in 2022.
When you say to yourself, William, now I'm officially a published author, what's the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
The most rewarding is talking to people about my book and reaching out to the public, having a fan base that supports me.
What are the chances that we're going to see more books from you in the future? Do you have thoughts about anything yet?
Yeah, I self-published my 4th book without using my publishing company. I just did that today. So my 4th book, I'm trying to talk to people about it on social media.
And I'm sure you've learned a lot along the way of writing and publishing now. Do you have any advice that you could offer to the aspiring authors that are listening to us?
Yeah, my advice would be to be patient. The money will come. Choose the right publishing company. Well, I think self-publishing is fine as well. Patience is very crucial in the entire process.
When you sit down to write, William, is writer's block ever something that you have to get past?
Not really. I have a lot of ideas and theories. So writer's block isn't a big deal for me.
Do you work off of an outline, maybe sort of a structure where you know you want things to go, or do you just sit down, start writing, and see where it goes?
I kind of write with my mood. I'm usually in a good mood, but I kind of brainstorm a little bit. I have my ideas on notes, paper. Yeah, I just kind of see where it goes from there.
William, are you a big reader?
Yeah, I read at least 30 minutes every day. I think reading is important for every writer, so that you're both a reader and a writer at the same time.
Again, it's titled My Theory of Evolution, Life with Meaning, Part 2. It's written by William Coakley, published by Newman Springs Publishing. It's available everywhere, so go on over to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes or traditional brick-and-mortar stores. You'll be able to find this. William, thank you so much again for joining me here tonight and chatting with me. I had a really good time.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.